Thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern, a special nor'easter coastal bomb edition. This storm's going to be like a bomb exploding and intensifying very rapidly. We're going to take a look at what's going on with the models. Is there still divergence going on? What's the level of divergence? And what exactly is going to happen with this system? Is the worst of it going to stay offshore, or will we see blizzard conditions onshore as well? We'll break it all down for you here, and we'll get into my first call snowfall map here and tell you what I think the totals are going to be. We'll line up all the surface maps, all the snowfall data on the models. So let's get into it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't to the channel. Hit the bell button. Question or comment down below. Yeah, I love to read your questions or comments. Smash the like button, and guess what? There are timestamps down below. If you wish to skip ahead, I will not be offended. Let's get right into it. All right, nor'easter impacts. Let's take a look at what I've got going on here. Into the green zone, this is where you'll probably see most likely 1 to 2 inches or less. And then you get into the yellow zone, into the Appalachians in the start of the storm, and 7 to 10 inches here along the western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee border here into these higher elevations. And then we get into some extreme totals here. You notice how quickly things pile up the closer you get to the coastline here. So into the pink zone here, this is where I think we could see some of those blizzard conditions, southeastern New England, into parts of eastern Long Island, eastern Maine. So here we go. Let's take a look at snowfall totals. My first snowfall map call of this storm, which has been a very difficult storm to forecast. All right, so let's take a look at the map you've been waiting for. Snowfall totals here across the Northeast. There is a very tight gradient, if you haven't noticed here. It's going to be... This is why it's been such a very tough forecast. We've had diverging models in the GFS camp versus the Euro camp, and look at this. This is what we have here. These areas in the red, this is where you stand the chance of seeing the 18 to 24 plus inches. And that's southeastern Massachusetts, eastern Rhode Island, and eastern Maine. And then the rest of these areas, Boston, 12 to 18 inches, all the way down through eastern Long Island, Bangor, Maine, Portland into the 12 to 18 / 8 to 12, so you're right on the foot mark there. Concord, you're in the 6 to 8, almost borderline 8 to 12. And look at this. We get into parts of New York City. I have you in the 6 to 8, borderline almost 8 to 12, just to the east. So you're in the 6 to 8 here, Atlantic City, 8 to 12. And look at this. A healthy 3 to 6 inches just northwest and west of New York City here into parts of New Jersey, western Massachusetts, and Connecticut. And then it falls off pretty rapidly here to the northwest, Albany and Scranton, Harrisburg seeing an inch or less. Let's take a look at the models. All right, latest run of the high-resolution Euro. We're going to cut to the chase here, go right into snowfall amounts here. Look at this. We put this into motion. Here is the Euro. So this is interesting because this is a little bit further west. It's actually bringing 10 inches, 8 to 10 inches into New York City, and right around 11 to 12 inches here in Atlantic City. Boston right around 20, and look at this, 27, 26 right out here in Cape Cod. And look at that, 12, 13, 15, 18 inches out here in Nantucket, indicating possibly some mixing. Up here in Portland, 15 inches, and then we get into Hartford, Connecticut. Look at that. That's pretty healthy accumulation, 13, 17 inches, and right around Delmarva border here, mid part of the peninsula, right around 11 inches. So we have a couple inches down here in Virginia too. So let's get into the GFS. So comparing that to the GFS, maybe just slightly less than what it was earlier today. We got 8 inches right around Atlantic City, 18 inches Boston, 18 inches Cape Cod, 23 inches on Nantucket. So this is still the further east model. Portland right around 10 inches, and even a little bit more snow back here towards the Appalachians, getting upwards of 6 inches in some of these higher elevations of eastern West Virginia, and a couple inches down here in Virginia and Maryland as well. So if we look at, I want to show you we got the high resolution NAM now. It's within the, we're going to do the latest run of that. So here we go. Put this into motion. Look at this. This is a pretty big expansion to the west for the NAM, because earlier today the NAM was further east. Now the NAM's picking up more in line with the Euro. This is interesting. 14 inches, 15 inches, and then we get up to 22 inches here on the eastern tip of Long Island, just east of Islip here. 16 inches in Boston, 26 to 30 inches out here on Cape Cod. That's pretty decent accumulation, right around 10, 11 inches here in Atlantic City, and 8 to 9 inches down here on the southern Delmarva Peninsula. And then we get up into some 2 to 4 inch rains right around Philadelphia here on westward, and only an inch back here in Wilkes-Barre and Harrisburg. So Albany staying pretty nil here for precipitation as well. So sharp cutoff here to the northwest, as can be expected. And we get into the Canadian model. Let's just make sure we have the latest. There we go. I put that into motion. It looks very much like the Euro. Look at that. Very, very similar amounts. All right, and let's go down here into the mid-Atlantic. We'll get into snowfall amounts. Look at this. We got 2 to 3 inches back here in a widespread area, Virginia, West Virginia. This is where we get down into some warning criteria amounts right along the North Carolina, eastern Tennessee border, the southern Appalachians, 7, 8, 9 inches potentially. And there is that southern extent, according to the Euro, as far south as there it is, Norfolk, maybe around 4 or 5 inches. It could be close. If this comes a little bit further south, some of these heavier bands, you could get into the potential for 6-inch accumulations here. So if we take a look at, let's take a look at the Canadian next. It's very similar to the Euro, and you can see not much change right around that 4 to 5 inches, Norfolk. There's Delmarva, and then we have a widespread 1 to 2 inches accumulation. And there's the southern mountains as well into parts of the southern Appalachians. So if we get into, I do want to go over to the GFS real quick here before we get into the NAM. And there's the GFS. Actually, they got to have the latest one. There we go. Look at that. Here we are. So GFS has been trending a little bit snowier here for Norfolk. Look at that, 6 inches. That's why I think you could see a solid 3 to 6 inches here in southeastern Virginia. And just the northern part of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So that's why winter storm watches are up in effect. 2 to 3 inches here widespread across Virginia. Maybe we'll have to watch and see if this area does get any snow. I kind of doubtful that you'll see any major accumulations, and major by any means in this part of the country is in these 2, 3, 4 inch range areas here. I think you'll see less than that. But this is interesting to see that the GFS is kind of back building the system and kind of pushing it slowly towards the west a little bit here. That seems to be the trend. And then we get into the NAM 3 kilometer. Let's take a look at that. So we put this into motion. This is interesting because that was earlier in the day. And I wanted to show you this, Ron. 18Z. Now we're getting into 0Z. Take a look at this. There it is. This was the one I showed you in the northeast. Look at how much further west this is. And we're still getting about 4 inches, Norfolk, up to Delmarva, 7, 8, 9 inches, and then 12 inches up by Atlantic City. Even increasing some of the totals in here to 2 to 3 inches on northwest of Richmond here. So, and look at this. Healthy accumulations in the southern Appalachians, 9, 10, 11 inches. There was an 18 inch in there. So some of these really higher peaks could really get hammered on Friday afternoon and evening here. So watch out for that. All right, here we go. Starting off with this. This is basically simulated radar NAM 3 kilometer. Yep, we got the latest run. Let's put this into motion. So we go throughout the day on Friday. We get light snow breaking out here across Pennsylvania, West Virginia, southern Ohio, parts of eastern Kentucky. And there's that heavier snow really piling up here in the southern Appalachians. This is starting early afternoon, and we really get into some of it towards evening. Now you can see the low pressure starting to form here off the North Carolina coast. Take a look at how this just congeals together so perfectly. You get this big slug of moisture starts to move to the northwest, and it moves into this colder air. Rain-snow line is really making its way east here as this cold front. And look at this trough back here. Really digs in as this pushes slowly to the northeast. And 987 millibar here, according to the NAM. And we pick this up into the northeast. This is for midday on Saturday. Take a look at that. Heavy snow breaking out. And look at this. Snow is all the way down into eastern North Carolina and eastern South Carolina up to New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, even pushing the western edge a little bit westward here. So this is a really interesting scenario shaping up. 970 millibars. This is bringing the low a little bit further westward than the previous run, and that's bringing in some really heavy snow bands here, especially into eastern Long Island, Boston, and I will move up in here into the northeast momentarily and show you how this system plays out into the northeast. Across the rest of the mid-Atlantic, let's take a look at the GFS real quick. It's very similar. Here it is. Early Saturday, we break in that trough, really kicking into the southeast here. 996 millibar low forming. Big slug of moisture pushing to the north. Let's back that up just slightly. You can see GFS showing a good deal. There's that heavy snow in the southern Appalachians later Friday evening into Saturday night. And this thing really gets going. 983 millibars. This is by about the time of sunrise on Saturday morning. There's that heavy snow. GFS is still the eastern outlier here. So we put this further into motion, and look at this. See this pink area? This is 2 to 4 inches per hour snowfall rates in here. This is some pretty intense snowfall. Some of these bands, so you get anywhere from an inch, 2, 3, 4 inches piling up per hour and pushing these bands into Nantucket and Cape Cod, which I'll show you in the northeast loop here. And just one more for the mid-Atlantic, and we get into parts of the, let's see, high resolution Euro. Here we go. So we put this into motion. Snow kicking in across the Carolinas, Virginia, western North Carolina, and there's that slug of moisture developing with this associated low pressure system. And we bring it into early Saturday morning. Here's the heavy snow. It's definitely positioned further westward, and the trough is digging a little bit further to the west here. So that's pushing the system actually more due north than it is on the GFS. You can see 984 millibars. It's still way out here, so it keeps a lot of the heavy snow right along I-95 corridor on eastward here. Look at this. Euro's really intensifying this 979 millibars. It's going to kind of look like almost like a hurricane on satellite. And we get into some of these 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 inch an hour snowfall rates. Going to be an all-out blizzard, and I'll show you the wind field on the NAM with this as well momentarily. 976 millibars, heavy bands of heavy snow, blizzard conditions continuing, snow lingering here into eastern Virginia and Delmarva Peninsula as well. This is heading on into Saturday evening. Look at this. Still continuing a 965 millibar low, and we move that on to the northeast. Actually, let's take a look at the northeast region with this system. We're going to start off with the high resolution Euro. Look at this. We head into Friday. We do have some light snow trying to break out here across parts of the northeast. And as this system moves in from the east coast here, we start to get some heavier snow breaking out here across the east coast area here. New Jersey, New York City, just south of Boston. This is early morning hours of set right around the midnight hour into the early morning hours. You can see the snow really lining up, and there is that heavy band right ahead of all this mixed precipitation here. So you take a look at this. We're really getting into some heavy 2 to 4 inch an hour snowfall rates. This is right around, this is afternoon for the most part, the early afternoon. And look how it intensifies into this 965 millibar low. It actually gets stacked right just east of Cape Cod, the eastern tip here, and Nantucket. It actually kind of backs into there before heading slowly resuming a northeastern track. And this is right around midnight Saturday night. Look at this. We're still dealing with it here in eastern Maine. That's where you'll pick up your significant accumulations. And that is a crazy amount of wind with this system as well. If we take a look at the GFS, let's see. We bring some snowfall into the region starting Friday, but it's not going to really amount to too much. Maybe a couple inches here across southern Pennsylvania into Virginia. But look at that. The big story is going to be, here it is. The GFS has pushed a little bit further to the west here. 979 millibar low. It's still the eastern outlier, however, but look at this. It does bring in some of the heavier bands, the eastern tip of Long Island, Rhode Island, southeastern Massachusetts into the coast of Maine. So look at that, really bringing Maine some of the really big totals here on the GFS. 966 millibar low. There is some really intense snow bands here just east of Boston by this point. This is right around midnight Saturday night, and this system starts to pull away. And we'll take a look at the NAM 3 kilometer here. Look at this. We push this in. This is basically simulated radar. Sunrise Friday morning. Look at this. Snow breaking out across eastern Pennsylvania. Maybe some snow showers here across the rest of Pennsylvania. And we break some snow showers in the morning hours around Binghamton, just before noon. And this will slowly sink to the south as this energy slowly sinks to the southeast and combines with the East Coast low to help generate this into a very powerful system. This is around midnight on Friday night. The system really starts to solidify to the south here. Snow breaking out around Philadelphia, New York City, Delmarva Peninsula. This is right around the time of the early morning hours. And we start to really see some of the heavier bands start to pick up on shore here in places like Long Island, Atlantic City, the Delmarva Peninsula. And you can see simulated radar shows this thing really persistent from the I-95 corridor on eastward here. Now, the interesting thing is, what I was just showing you here on the NAM, that was the earlier one. I want to show you the new one here. So more of an expanse of snow. It's kind of indicating on Friday, midday, that the energy that's coming out of this northern branch stream system is a little bit more vigorous here. So we get more intense snowfall here. That's why the new NAM is bringing 2 to 3 inches here across parts of northern Virginia, Maryland, and New Jersey. And look at this. We bring in some, this is a bit further west than the previous run. That is not your imagination there. So it's really solidifying the really intense bands from I-95 corridor on eastward and bringing in some light snow here up into parts of the southern Catskills and Poconos. That is interesting. That it's actually bringing it that far westward. When earlier in the day, as I just showed you in previous frames, it was not. But look at this. This is right around sunrise on Saturday morning, a 980 millibar low. And look at this. It kind of doubles the lows up. So it's almost indicating that this could be a double barrel low system, which means it's very complex. So there's a lot of energy going with this system. And the eastern tip of Long Island up to Cape Cod, this is really where the zone is for blizzard conditions. I mean, if you look at this 972 millibar low, this is some intense banding of snowfall as we head into the afternoon hours. Look at this, 968. This is right around 2, 3, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. range. 966 millibar. Look at this. This is some intense action here as we get close to like the 7, 8 p.m. time frame. There'll still be some intense snow bands, and there'll be hurricane force winds, especially Cape Cod, through the eastern tip of Long Island, the coastline here, Nantucket. You'll be dealing with some tremendous winds, and those winds will translate up into Maine as well here as we get some of those spiraling snow bands that will create blizzard-like conditions. All right, now aside of the system I really want to show you is the wind speed, wind gusts. We're going to take a look at the latest NAM 3-kilometer. And, of course, this is taking us early Friday. They have that cold front move through. And winds die down in the morning, and then they increase throughout the day, of course. But this is later. This is actually towards midnight on Friday night. We start to have winds out of the northeast start to kick up here. Look at this, 32 miles an hour Atlantic City. It's going to get a lot worse than this. Look at this. We start to see wind gusts even outside of these snow bands, 30, 40 miles an hour. Look at this eastern tip of Long Island. This is by, wow. You see this? This is getting towards closer to sunrise. We have wind gusts 44 miles per hour in New York City, 41 in Boston, 43 in Atlantic City. And look at this. We're close to 50. We're at 50 miles an hour here east of Islip, Long Island, and out on Cape Cod as well. And we put this into motion. There's sunrise. Look at some of these gusts coming in. 66 miles an hour, 61 miles an hour out on the eastern tip of Long Island. 53 miles an hour here in Atlantic City. And look at this. We have an area of calm winds out here. This almost looks like an eye. This is interesting. This is like an extratropical system. And look at this. You have this shield of hurricane force winds here in this darker brown shading. Look at this. 60, 65 miles an hour. And then just off the coast, it's getting into 75 mile per hour wind gusts here. Let's put this into motion. As we get throughout the afternoon, those hurricane force winds approach or come pretty close here to Nantucket. And look at this, Long Island, 67, 68 mile per hour wind gusts here. And we start to calm it down a little bit here in New Jersey. We're still pretty fast, though. So take a look at this. If we're going to have snowfall falling at high rates, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches an hour, this is going to be all-out blizzard conditions. We're going to have beach erosion, storm surge going on. This is a tremendous amount of water heading towards the coastline as well. 60 miles per hour here out on Cape Cod here. We continue with 64 miles an hour. This is getting into the afternoon, and then we get into the early evening. The core of the strongest winds continues here into Long Island and Cape Cod. We get into 66, 68 mile per hour, 70 mile per hour wind gusts here, 74 out on Nantucket. And look at this, we start to get towards Portland, 55 miles per hour, and up towards Bangor, Maine, 50 miles per hour. So this is a pretty expansive system. Look at this, throughout the night, Saturday night, 51 miles an hour in Boston. We start to calm it down just slightly. If you can call this calm, we start to bring some of these wind totals down. But gusts are indicated by the numbers here. And so this is an interesting system as far as wind field. We're going to be dealing with a lot of wind, and that's what could create the blizzard-like conditions here. And taking a look at Derek Rentschler from the Harrisburg area of the Susquehanna River. Take a look at the icy Susquehanna River. This is quite a sight to behold. Look at this. The entire river is basically filled with ice here. This is all these frigid temperatures that have, especially up in the northern stem of the Susquehanna River. Look at this tremendous amount of ice. This is definitely a sight to behold across the area. So nice captures here, Derek. This is some very beautiful captures. Look at here underneath the bridge. This is definitely some sights to behold. Nice captures there, Derek, from the Susquehanna River, icy waters of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. All right, here's my surface maps and what I think is going to happen here and how it plays out across the Northeast. Cold front slicing through the region. We'll bring some morning snows here, light snows across upstate New York into northern Pennsylvania, mainly north of Interstate 80, less than an inch. But we get down here later in the day, we get some moderate snow breaking out, maybe an inch, 2 inches. Locally higher, 3 to 4 inches here in the Appalachians here. We'll start out as a rain and snow mix from D.C. southward here, and we'll transition that over to snow throughout the day, so probably 1 to 2 inches towards evening here. So then we get transition into Saturday. This low gets cranking. Hurricane force winds just off the coast will start to buffet the coast midday into the afternoon and evening hours. Conditions really going downhill rapidly. Now, if you see that you're in this dark blue zone here in southeastern Massachusetts, eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, eastern Long Island, and you see the coastline here of Maine, this is where you'll likely see the blizzard conditions in this darker blue zone here. Into this these two shades of medium blue here, this is where you'll see probably borderline or likely warning criteria in this next shade here. And then this medium blue, definitely a higher, maybe advisory criteria. And then we drop off very quickly to the northwest here, almost nothing, an inch or less in this light blue zone. So you're definitely going to fall off. The totals are going to fall pretty fast as you go northwest. Like New York City will be high-end advisory criteria, maybe borderline into the warning criteria, but then northwest of the city you'll fall off very quickly. The eastern counties of southeastern New Jersey, a lot of snow, warning criteria. Northwestern New Jersey, almost nothing. So this is how quickly it's going to fall off. Same with Massachusetts. Western Massachusetts getting significantly less than eastern Massachusetts, and the same here up in New Hampshire and Maine. Portland definitely making out with warning criteria. Snows. Boston, almost blizzard conditions here. Concord, you're going to be right on the edge of high-end advisory into warning criteria as well. So down until Delmarva here, definitely the southern part of Delmarva Peninsula up to the midsection here, getting into some warning criteria. The winds are going to be howling too, definitely getting those blizzard conditions as I showed you into the wind field map. And if we get into Sunday, that system pulls to the northeast, still some snow showers lingering in the morning, definitely some strong wind gusts, and we bring in some temperatures behind this that will be a little bit more moderate than it was the previous day, stuck in the teens. And then we get into Monday here, and we really clear out, and we start that warming trend pattern that was definitely bound to kick in here. All right, so if we take a look at the southeast for your Friday, there's that cold front, that southern extent from I showed you in the northeast. And here across the southeast, definitely a cooling trend here. We have the low pressure systems forming. This is what's going to form that big nor'easter that heads up the coast here. Now, starting off in the day here, Norfolk down to Raleigh, this is definitely be rainfall. Now, as the cold front pushes in from the northwest, we will see that transition to snowfall. So we probably see 1 to 2 inches into this pink shading here as the cold air filters down towards afternoon and evening. And then in this darker blue, especially back towards the western North Carolina, Tennessee border, and those higher elevations, 7 to 10 inches. We get up into 3 to 6 inches up here in this range, locally higher in some of the higher elevations, but mainly staying advisory criteria in the Appalachians here, below advisory criteria here into Virginia and North Carolina. And heavy rain up along the coastline here as this system strengthens. Let's get into your Saturday. That blast to the south here, the big story is going to be the cold air. Look at this, 44 in Panama City, 50 in Tampa, and 60, only 60 in Miami. So that's pretty cold. And look at that. We'll have some morning snow around Norfolk, Virginia Beach, up to the northeast here. The Delmarva Peninsula dealing with warning criteria snows. So we'll definitely be dealing with at least 3 to 6 inches of snow, I think, right around the Norfolk area, heading northeastward here across into even warning criteria snows here to the northeast. So getting pretty interesting. And then we head into Sunday here. High pressure really dominating. Temperatures start to warm. Look at that, 70 in Houston. We're still stuck with a really cold start Sunday morning. We could have temperatures below freezing across much of the peninsula of Florida, and look at that, only heading up towards 56 in Tampa. And then into Monday, we have a backdoor cold front. Doesn't seem really that cold behind it, though, but high pressure here in Florida. We finally get to 70 in Miami, and look at that. The next system coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, bringing showers and thunderstorms likely to Louisiana and eastern Texas. Thankfully, none of them severe. And my extended outlook from my hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton's Upper Susquehanna Regent, upstate New York, Northeast Pennsylvania. Look at Friday through Tuesday here. Friday and Saturday, we stay just west of that big nor'easter, so we're not looking at anything other than some really cold conditions. Maybe a snow shower Friday morning, less than an inch. -3 Saturday morning and -7 on Sunday morning. But look at this. Big pattern reversal for Monday, Tuesday, partly sunny skies. We'll be getting to near 41 by Tuesday. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern on continuing nor'easter coverage here along the U.S. East Coast. I'll have a lot more updates for you in the coming days. Don't forget to check out my social media. I'll have those weather micro updates. Facebook at Meteomark. Also, Facebook at Weather Northeastern. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Weather Eastern. Meteomark.com, weathernortheastern.com. If you haven't already, down below, subscribe, hit the bell button. And remember, a question or comment, smash that like button. Thank you for joining me.